right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Friedman Adventures. I'm here with my son, Philip, today. And, man, we are honored. We have a very special guest, a guy that has accomplished so much. It's really an honor to have you. Benny, how the hell are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you, Philip. Thanks for inviting me, both you, Philip, and Philip.
We are going to talk, of course, about calico bass, and we're going to talk about how to catch calico bass because, I mean, we've already kind of leaked out that you're going to be on the show.
Oh, nice. Thanks.
And, like, the questions, like, oh, my God, Benny Florentino. The questions were coming in. We're going to do that. But I also want to get to know you, Benny, like, where were you born and who was your mentor and what style of fishing, what person motivated you to become the angler that you are. So let's start with where were you born?
Well, I was born in Philadelphia in 58. So you do the math, that comes to Social Security age, right?
Same age, buddy.
And we moved from Philadelphia because my dad was in the Navy, from Philadelphia to Wilmington because my dad was stationed here in San Pedro back when San Pedro was the hub of naval supremacy back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And the day of the tuna fleet, right there.
Remember?
Near
Yeah.
So I grew up here in Wilmington when I was 3. Went to, if you're from Wilmington back in the day, Hawaiian Avenue, played ball at Will Hall. But we rode our bike. Back in the day, you could ride your bikes anywhere. I mean, you could ride them to Pedro, to Holiday Harbor. You can ride to Redondo and go catch bonita in the harbor. But we did a lot of bike riding to like Pedro was our deal. Back then, they never kicked you out of the harbors. You were able to go fishing. You can fish splashers and dowling with feathers for bonita in the, I think, the next dock over. And then we would fish a lot for piling perch at Holiday Harbor, getting the little crabs, piling crabs off the pilings and just try to catch the big piling perch.
What led you to fishing, though? Who was it? There must have been somebody, or was it just because of where you lived?
I think it's just where we
proximity
lived.
to the ocean.
First, my cousin, his mom owned the concession at Chicken of the Sea. So she used to have a small concession, and the workers would come there. So I'd come and help on the weekends during the summer. And it was a good way to make $50. I only made $50 back in the 70s, right? That's a lot for a kid.
That's a lot of money.
That was a lot for a kid that was like
almost as much
10.
as we pay our new intern. Yeah, Alex.
So I did that. I got tired of hanging out on the weekends because I wanted to fish more because we had school during the week or whatever it was, or baseball. And so, but we used to go and hang out, and we'd see all the tuna get offloaded.
Oh.
I mean, back in the 70s and 60s was the hub of tuna fishing in San Pedro.
Yeah.
A lot of history.
And as a kid looking at that, I mean, that just inspired you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, seeing them come off the fleet's boats, unload them out of their holds into a freezer, and then watch them break down, and they come out to little cans. It's
amazing, right?
It was pretty
what's
cool.
funny about that
Pretty
too?
cool.
You mentioned that as a kid and having an impact on you. I was in Taiwan recently. My brother lives there, and we took a ride down and watched them offload these tuna, and I still stood there in awe.
Oh, it's cool.
And just looking at it and imagining catching one of those things.
Right. No, it's something I don't think any kid from the 80s on will never experience it. Unless they're family, or you've got a lot of families that own commercial fleets. They may experience a little bit of it, but nothing like we experienced back in the 70s and 60s, and when we were younger.
And it's a real shame because now kids are stuck on their phones and stuck indoors. Yeah. I really believe that contributes. This may sound silly, but I think it contributes to some mental disorders like depression. I mean, if you're not getting enough vitamin D, and you're not out in the sunshine, you're not in the great outdoors, there are physiological ramifications from that. I think, right?
I think kids, especially in our day and age, in 1920s, I'm 2020, our kids aren't being kids. They can't hang out with their bros at school. They can't go play, after school. They can't go to baseball on the weekends or soccer, whatever they do. They just can't be kids. Even nowadays in the modern age, they just don't do what we used to do. Ride your bikes. You have, parents worry about their kid going down the block unless they're with, 10 of their friends, or they're they have to know where they're going to end up at. So it's unfortunate. But, I think it was a great time, 60s, 70s, to grow up, just because we were doing whatever we did.
And I know you know Jeff Jessup. You watched the last show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can attest to that because as a kid, I used to drop you off there all the time. And I think that helped you to make the man you are now, which maybe I need to go back and redo that. Just kidding.
Well, you know what, man? To this day, hands down, best job I ever had was working a sport boat. Yeah. So much fun. I learned so much. The camaraderie out there with the boys, ton of fun. Yep. And it's brought me to my love of fishing, and I can't shake it. Yeah. It's in my veins.
It's life experience, right? I mean, even as kids, you know, when we were younger, able to ride your bike and experience. The only thing you're worried about is riding your bike past Beacon Street with all the drunks. You know, I mean, that was our extent of worrying about anything.
Yeah.
But you knew to stay away from that. Nowadays, you just can't. But you know, Jeff alluded to pinheads. You know, there's so many restrictions as far as working and you know, insurance, and I get it nowadays. But back in the day, man, you'd see, you know, because I fished. That's what I did before I did a lot of skiff fishing in the middle of 70s, going into the 80s was party boat fishing, because that's all there was. We didn't have all these skiff fishing as much as we did as we do now. So you'd see all the, who's the new pinhead up there? And you know, they're smiling, you know, cleaning whatever the puke out of the heads, or you know, hey, we got to do this, we got to do that, and they had no problem doing it because they want to be the guy on the tank throwing bait or gaffing fish.
You are so. I mean, you've hit it on the head. I mean, when I was a kid on the Redondo Special, my parents would buy tickets, send my brother Paul and I out there, and we would go out and have a great day. And this one day, a guy by the name of Howard Warbays, he was a deckhand on the Redondo Special, said, "Hey, kid, how would you like to ride in with us to the harbor, the inner sanctum, and scrub the boat for free, basically? And you can go fishing for free." And I'm like, oh, my God, this is the best day of my life. And it was. Yeah. And it led to a whole life of great times. And the places fishing take you to, the beautiful places, it's all great.
Yeah, it's life experiences. You know, listening to Jeff's interview about, you know, Jeff and I call it the stable of Mark Paisano and Paul Strassner, because, you know, their stable was Russ Eisner.
Yeah.
He was their mentor, right? So that kind of carried over the business sense, how they run everything professional, to all the boats they've become attached to, the Monty, the Islander, the Pursuit, you name it. It's a little bit of them growing on these guys. They understand, stay away from the bad stuff, go on the right path, don't go on the left path, you know.
And you're so right. Russ was a great mentor to those guys.
He was.
And he was a hardworking guy.
He was.
Visionary also.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We have to thank him for Eisner's Reef for that. So,
right, exactly.
You know, so, you know, getting back to mentors when I was younger, I think my cousin just got me into it. We used to just go every weekend and started messing around with gear. We were trying to wrap rods with, you know, books and thread and, you know, nail polish and stuff like that, because we didn't have the tools we have nowadays. But we tried to make it work, and, you know, we did everything. Tuna fish, yellowtail, barracuda, it didn't matter. We just went fishing.
You wanted to go fishing.
Just went fishing, yeah.
And you were quite a stick on the sport boats.
I did okay. I did.
Did you? I know you're really into artificials now.
Yeah.
Were you that way immediately on the boats, or were you fishing bait and then you transitioned?
I was fishing. I mean, you know, we didn't have, like I said, we didn't have the tools, like, you know, Penn Squidder at Thrifties and 500s and 501s. You can go to Thrifties and get them for $30 and buy a bunch of them. Yeah. So that's all I had to start with, and I was fishing bait. But, you know, back in, it had to have been late 70s. It was right after I got out of high school. I was fishing with Derry Derivin, afternoon half day fishing
on the City of Redondo.
City of Redondo, fishing afternoon, calico bass and maybe a yellow, but calico bass was fun, fly lining. He goes, "Hey kid, you know, I got these baits here, and these are similar to what they are, but I think you get the gist. It's an old Worm King, but he gave me one of these. He goes, "Hey kid, try these, put it on this head, and just cast it out there." He goes, oh shit, I'm on. And he goes, "You don't have to ever put a new bait on. Just take it off and make sure it stays on there and cast it again." I think I caught like 5 bass, and I go, "Hey, you got any more of those?" He goes, "I'll give you one more, but that's it. You'll have to go figure it out." So, you know, it was just the old, you know, Worm King. I forgot the name of it, but it's kind of a brown bait color, you know, and this is what we fish.
And you got hooked.
And I got hooked. I go, this is the way to go. Yeah. You know, and I did the tuna fish, you know, tuna fishing, the yellowtail fishing, and all that. but I really gravitated to fishing calicos on the artificial. 2 rods we had was something with a swim bait and a surface iron. You know, a 9-foot glass CalStar is what I had. No, I had a Saber with a 505, little high speed, fishing 30-pound mono. And that's it. Back in the day, we had, you didn't have choice. You have live bait, or maybe a plastic or a scampi or something similar to that, or a surface iron. We usually had tatty.
Yeah.
So, and that's all we had.
And you went on sport boats from, say, Redondo to San Diego?
I fished mainly 22nd, LA, back when it was LA Harbor, Queens. I fished them all, but I fished Redondo in the summer.
Yeah.
Fished with Glenn Mueller on the special.
Oh, my God. I worked with Glenn on the special. So
and
we probably, who
I probably
knows?
saw you and just,
I'm sure.
Yeah. Good story is I had the privilege of taking Chance Barber, Chance, his grandson, Lori, his daughter, and then Glenn out bass fishing one summer 2 years ago, and we probably caught 100 bass.
Oh my God!
He just goes, I remember you coming on the boat, and I get a handful of these other guys. I go, damn, we got to go bass fishing. The bass guys are on the boat, but he knew when the bass guys came on, his job was easy. Just set up on the edge of the kelp, toss some chum, fish come up, and we'd whack them on plastics.
That's crazy. And to bring this whole family even closer together, Lori is Jeff Jessup's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy how that works.
So, yeah.
I used to fish the Pursuit back in 74-ish, and it was running out of Redondo. And a guy by the name of Frank Grace.
Frank Grace.
Frank.
Yeah,
He's a Torrance
Cop.
But I remember same kind of epiphany happened with me. He was sitting back in the corner. He was using like a Rapala or a Lucky Craft type of lure.
Yep.
And he was just frickin' on a bass every time. And it finally dawned on me, like going back and forth from the bait tank and getting all grimy and everything. You don't have to do that.
Yep. It was great because you can also put the bait wherever you want it. Oh, boy, they're boiling up the side.
Right.
Bait just went up. They're boiling up the side. Boom, or back in the corner or back up the side, up off the bow. Yellowtail come up. Well, I only have, okay, we'll cast it on there. It was just a great way to just not have to run to the tank, get a good one, and then get it out. You were pretty persistent at getting precise casts.
And you make a great point right now. As a fisherman, being observant when that bird dips and seeing that bird dip. That bird's dipping for a reason. Being observant, how important is that?
That's huge. Anything from one bird dipping to a whole school of them. When there's a whole, we call it our big hurricane, when they're just going at it, that's easy, right?
Yeah, right.
When you see one kind of fluttering, dipping, and you see something kind of roll underneath.
Right.
That's a good fish there.
Yeah,
That's where I need to make a cast, whether it's a live bait or an artificial. But artificials, you can get there a lot quicker and more direct. And you could almost tell when you see that bird kind of doing this and kind of working either from the stern going up to the bow or going up swell, you could almost put your cast here and that fish will locate your bait. Instead of on it, he might have already moved and then you might have missed him, or you might get a trailer, whatever it may be. But yeah, that's a great indicator. Birds are they're better than some of the finest electronics.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
so you went from the sport boats,
Yep.
then you went to the private boat, to the skiff, or how did that transition take place?
So I had the idea of buying this skiff. It was a Sea Squirt. It's a classic little hull, but the motor was just trash. I mean, it ran, and it was a 17-foot Sea Squirt. I purchased it in late 80s, and just started. Yeah, would go to Catalina with my son. My son at the time was like, I don't know, 9.
Yeah,
and
you started Matt early.
Oh yeah, well I started him even earlier than that on sport boats. He was 3 on the sport boats.
Oh my God! See, you're a man after my own heart.
You know what I mean?
Patrick used to ride. He was too big, but Patrick rode my shoulders when he was 2 years old.
I mean, I have to say, if you have a boat or you can get kids out fishing, get them out as young as possible.
Damn right.
Because the wives, I know the wife. Well, I goes, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
They really will. We'll never let anything happen to kids.
Right.
I mean, that's just our nature. We take care of our kids. So
unless you count falling in a bait tank and almost drowning, remember that?
Yeah,
that was with John
on
Batts.
purpose or
That was
Yeah, I shoved him. I was tired. No, I did.
Pier Point Landing.
Okay.
He's sitting there. He's got 3 legal.
That
halibut.
wasn't Pier Point. It was Marina Sport Fishing.
Was it?
John Batts, City of Long Beach.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You got 3 legal halibut.
Yes.
The halibut are chewing at the dock.
Oh,
and
gee.
they got a whole tank full of sardines. I think I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there reaching in the bait tank, playing with the bait. And the next thing I know, I'm ass over tea kettle into this bait tank. And
Nice.
I'm floundering around. I forgot who grabbed me. Someone grabbed me.
It wasn't me.
Out.
I was trying to hook another halibut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
But-
He's in there. Oh, he'll get out.
No, he'll be all right.
I just remember the next thing is I'm playing with them, and then they're swimming around me. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, but Benny, I mean, that 4 years old, and that memory will go with him for the rest of his life,
Absolutely.
right? And that's
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, there's times like there was this time coming back from Catalina, and, afternoon wind out of the west comes up every day about noon. And I go, all right, sit. There was no seat behind this console. Sit up in the front, put a towel over your head, and I'll let you know when to look up because it's little. You might get wet. The water will beat off the towel, right? And we're taking it over. We're taking it in the teeth. It's quartering, and we're getting barreled the whole way. And it's taking forever to get home. He goes, "Can I lift it?" I go, "Not yet, dude. We're almost there." About like 10 miles off the lighthouse, and we finally get in. I go, "Hi, you all right?" He goes, "I'm just a little wet." He goes, "Don't tell your mom we came back in this stuff. She'll kick my ass."
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah. And I guess he told her like a week later, and she never said anything to me. And he told me later, he goes, "Yeah, I told Mom." She goes, she just shook her head. So that's where it started. Skiff fishing started then, and then I started fishing PV. I just dedicated my whole skiff fishing to PV. I wanted to know, like, if you look at my meter now, I've transferred a lot of waypoints. I've got a lot of rocks and everything, waypoints up in PV, from outside, inside, on the beach, to around the corner, to up near shark fin, and even way up in rats.
I don't think anybody has PV dialed in like you've got it dialed in.
I've been lucky. I mean, and to chest beat a little bit, for as long as I've been guiding, which is since 2013. Let's see, 3 fish over 10. My clients, not me. 3 fish over 10, 4 fish over 10. Let's see. Last year, Gary Woodrum, the name sound familiar?
Yeah, I know Gary.
Johnny Woodrum's
Yeah.
son, Gary, got a 10 and a half.
Nice going, Gary.
Yes. And then
and Ben.
and Gus was with us,
Oh, shoot.
and he got one like 9 3/4. These are all swim bait plastic fish, right?
Wow.
And then 2
And
years.
and when you got the boys fishing with you, you know that term, the boys,
Oh,
the
yeah,
guys
yeah,
that are in
yeah,
the
yeah,
industry,
yeah.
you know you're on
Well,
at the apex
yeah,
of the business. Good for you.
Exactly. So, and then 2 years before that, maybe 3, Jake, one of my regulars, brother-in-law, came on. We fished Clemente. It was wide open, stupid fishing. Wax swing, surface, it didn't matter. They were biting anywhere from 5 to 7. All surface stuff. Cast, fast wind, bit. He goes, "Hey, Ben, can I throw that swim bait rod?" I go, "Dude, you throw whatever you want. They're eating gummy bears, right?" And so he throws swim bait out. He goes, "Oh, I think I'm stuck." I go, "Lift the rod up." He goes, "Oh." I go, "That's a fish. Wind hard, Jake." Comes up, it's 10-3.
Wow.
And then one of my very
Are these all PV fish?
these are
That was
all
Clemente.
no, that's
Clemente,
Clemente. And then
Thank you.
Dr. Wang Tang, he was his first trip with his son Garrett. I think at the time he was like 8. And but anyways, Wang got one 10-2 PV on the pipe
Wow.
in like 20 feet of water, on a 4-inch this size bait here. No, that's 5. It's like a 5-inch weedless. Where's it at? It's in here. It's like this.
Oh, there you go.
Like 5-inch size bait here. So like that.
Amazing.
5-inch.
Yeah.
They were eating a little bait, and he caught on 40-pound straight tie braid
Wow.
on a 200 size reel.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's a little chest beat. I've gotten 2 fish over 10, 10-8, and then 10-4 at Clemente, both on the surface iron. The first one we caught at Dana Point in like 2 feet of water, pre-fishing for a tournament.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't have anything near a 10 myself. You do? Do you?
Well, here's the thing.
It's a misnomer.
I'm maybe like a 6 for me or 7 for me.
I caught one at Catalina with my buddies, and we're on a 17-foot sea ray in the middle
This
of
is
Santa
already
Ana.
starting to sound like bullshit, isn't it?
We don't have a professional scale. We
A
have
professional scale?
We-
You mean a certified scale?
a certified scale.
Okay.
We got one of those scales that's got a spring from the 1950s,
Oh, no.
and you put it on there. It went on there, and I know I'm going to get the answer today. Went on there at 11 pounds.
How are you going to get the answer today?
Because
Benny
it
wasn't
measured,
there.
it measured 26 inches.
Well, here's the thing about measuring. I know a lot of guys go, well, that thing weighed, how long was it? Well, sometimes you'll get, I had this conversation with my son on the way here, is like spotties, a legal spotty's 14 inches, right? A short one is under. But it can weigh 1.5 pounds. Technically, a 14-inch spotty is about 1.2 pounds, technically, right? But then you get those ones that are fat and round.
Right.
Like mine. It was 10.4, and it was, I don't even measure it because I have a certified boga grip. Mm-hmm. And when you get into the 10-plus stuff, there's like a little rusting on it. So when you see it go like 10.5, 11, you're in the goods.
Yeah.
But I don't measure. Only thing I measure is sea bass, halibut, and anything that needs to be sheephead that need to be. Bass, I just don't, because their girth, they could be wide.
Right.
And sometimes you'll get them like long and they're skinny.
Right.
Like
Same thing with largies.
Yeah, exactly. We had an 8-pounder that was just long and had no gut. It was post spawn.
Okay.
If it was like prime time spawn, the thing would have been 10 pounds easily. It was just skinny.
My brother was fishing at San Quintin with a guy named Bob Alvarez, and they were down there in a skiff, and I was driving down there, so I met up with them. Yeah, and my brother was standing out in front of like a disco joint or something, right? And they had an ice cooler full of stuff, and I see him with this calico bass trying to impress a senorita down there, right? And he was going to give it to her. And I drove up and I said, don't give her that fish. Give her one of those yellowtail.
Right.
And he's like, what? And I go, dude, have you weighed that fish? So on a hand scale, 12.5.
Oh, geez, that's a good one.
But it's a hand
Yeah,
scale, so
yeah,
you can't tell. But it was an enormous. In fact, the mount is over at Pierpoint Landing.
Oh, is
I
it really?
think.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was enormous. And he was using it to try to score some points with one of the beautiful Baja senoritas.
It's gonna make fish tacos.
Yeah,
out of
usually greenfish like the dinero would entice them. My feeling on measuring and weighing, I think anything certified gives you the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've seen some, like I've broken a lot of guys' hearts. Oh, that's 10, that's 10. I go, I think it's about 7. He goes, really? I go, just let's put it on the certified. He goes, 7, dude, it's 7.5. He goes, God. I go, dude, it's a 7.5 pound
Yeah.
That's a
calico bass.
big calico bass.
Right?
Be happy.
Exactly.
Celebrate.
Exactly. So, I mean, I have to put things in perspective, but I also have to, kind of feel what my guess are as far as their, their deal. But I've had a lot of people catch their PBs, which is always gratifying for me. 2019, I got 5 fish over 9. 3 of them were surface iron. One was weedless, yeah, and a weedless bait. You're talking something like this, right? Weedless bait. This happens to be an MC 7-inch. This is a bad one. It's all chewed up. So,
You mean that's a good one?
yeah.
It's so bad it's good.
So I mean, there's, but I've been fortunate enough to be in the right spot, and that's just like captains. Jeff talked about, being in the right place. And, sometimes luck is where it's at.
All right, so let's bring this to present day just for a moment now. If you were going to go bass fishing, so it's wintertime, water's cold. I was just out there and we had 57-degree water. Yeah. So fish, you tell me, but fish are lethargic, they're probably deeper. Where would you fish and what would you do? You talked about being in the right place. Yeah. So there's a new guy out there who just bought a skiff. And other than coming out with you, which is probably the best way to learn, what would you tell him here in the wintertime? Where would you go and what techniques would you use right now?
I would find structure that has bait, and I'd be real patient. Honestly, this time of year, I love to lead head and squid fish. 9-foot rod, like a medium rod, 80-pound braid, and 50-pound leader fishing 2-ounce, 1.5-ounce lead head and squid. Fresh dead, the best, and you can catch them all day. I know a spot right now that's will bite. You get 100 bass.
Ooh, Benny, what are you doing after
biting.
the show?
We're gonna have to talk after the show.
It's biting, but if it was artificials, I would find it. I'd be patient, and my expectation wouldn't be too high. There'd be 2 baits I would fish. Would be a 2 bait, and a 2 bait. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Don't worry about
it.
it. Our intern should have jumped on that immediately. Yeah. That was a test. Thank you for doing that. Alex, no money today. You're out.
I would fish probably 30 to 50 feet of water with a 2 bait. This is a no name. I'm not sponsored or having, but a tube bait in red colors because it's crustacean. Most of those fish lay there and eat as much protein as they can. They don't want to chase a mackerel. They don't want to chase, sardines. They just want to lay there and wait for stuff because the water's colder. 57-degree water temp surface, it could be 53, 52 way down below. So they're not moving much,
So it sounds like in the wintertime you do make an exception and go to bait.
I do.
Yeah.
Just because I do a lot more fun fishing from January to March. And January, I've had some really, really, really good, outstanding bass days on the leadhead and squid, if I can get it. I was just here 2 weeks ago and bought $120 worth of frozen squid from 22nd Street, just because thought the receiver had it, they didn't, and got to do what you got to do, So and that day we caught like about, 100 bass. Anything from little guys to like 5 and 6 pounders.
Jeez,
but we were catching.
Exactly. In the wintertime.
In the wintertime.
That's awesome.
I mean, the name of the game is to catch. Summertime, when I'm fishing cat, but I'll fish sardines, But getting back to your questions as far as wintertime, low and slow. Some of the places like Iser's Reef, again, a big tube bait, a swim bait, leadhead and squid, anything that's going to get to the bottom quick and stay down there. Plan on losing a lot of tackle. That's just the name of the game. These fish kind of hunker down, get in the structure, kind of stay there and wait for stuff to come by. They're eating a lot of the lobster that are around. Some of them are molting, some are not, so they tend to eat that. So you're talking a bait like this size, a small lobster, and big sand bass, big calicos are sucking them down. So you want to kind of mimic that sort of thing. Tube bait kind of does that. There's the 2-ounce tube bait. We fish these at Clemente in 90 feet of water because sometimes those fish are off the beach and they're on structure. Mm-hmm. You're catching all the other googly gobs like reds and lings and grouper and stuff like that. But the big bass, they're down at the bottom, hunker down.
I want to touch on your leadhead and squid setup. Mm-hmm. Is that 50 pounds something you always use, or do you drop your line down? Because I know a lot of bass guys like to fish that 20, 25, 30 when they're fishing calicos. Are you strictly fishing that 50?
I'm fishing heavy because the big ones are way down. The little guys are going to bite you on the sink. You're fishing 1.5 ounces. That thing's going to go,
right.
50-pound kind of, with 1.5 ounces, 2 ounce kind of shimmies down a little bit slower. And you'll get the little bites, and then it gets the big ones, interested.
So calicos aren't very line shy from what?
No. I mean, some of the outfits I have, this is a 300 size. You'd see that all right. This happens to be the new Corrado 300, made for swim bait fishing for freshwaters, but I use it for salt fishing, a number of different things. Big tube bait, swim bait, but this is 65, and this is 40 pound. Okay. My surface iron, it's 80 pound and 60 pound. And, when you go to Clemente on the right situation, the fish is up, they'll eat that, no problem, on the surface. But there's a time when and again, conditions are everything. Current, they tend to come up. Bait's there, they'll come up. Current dies, they kind of settle back down. And that's when you need to find, that's when you go to this sort of thing here.
Right.
You go to the deep. Isers, this is good, big tube bait. Isers, just plan on losing a lot.
Yep.
That's all. Just plan on losing.
Conditions are everything. I'm listening.
Huge. Yeah.
How big is tide? Fishing a high tide. Is that big or not?
High tide, low tide, as long as there's water moving.
Yeah.
You just want
fish like moving water, right?
Yeah, moving water, right. I know what I do is I do fish the tube baits or some kind of creature bait when there's no conditions and kelp straight up, and you got to find those stocks like at PV. We'll fish the 1 ounce in 25, 30 feet of water, flipping stocks like you would freshwater. Literally standing on the bow, just flipping, letting it go next to the kelp stock. Because this thing does this kind of circular motion like it's a kelp crab coming off the kelp. So this thing, when they fall, they don't just go straight. They kind of, shimmy around down to the bottom. And then when they try to get away, they kind of, paddle their way away. So a lot of times we're just flipping. Like if guys see me out there, flipping that. One will hold a good one. Had a couple of guys about 3 weeks ago, and it was just a pick bite. We probably caught 20 up there, but it was all flipping stocks. They go, man, I would have never thought to do this. I go, well, the fish don't leave, right? The food source is there. There's always sardine up there. There's always food for them to eat. It's when they want to come up and eat is a question, and there's always crabs and kelp crabs on the kelps, and but they tend to hold bigger ones because, again, it's rock, and they just hunker down there and wait for stuff to come by. And this thing falling down in front of their face, and the technique's easy. You flip on a kelp stalk, thing hits the bottom, you lift, it kind of does the same thing coming up, comes down, you don't get bit, reel it back up, find another one.
It's exactly like largemouth bass fishing.
It's flipping.
Do you ever punch for them? You ever do a punch setup?
I don't, because then you're in a vulnerable position. You get the bite, but getting them through all that stuff is tough. I know they do it a lot at Cedros and some other places. I think the odds are against you when you hook a good one in that stuff. Yeah.
Moon phase, important, not important?
I try not to pay attention to it.
Okay. Yeah, and probably for the same reason as me, you try to figure that out, and I do kind of base my charters on that. Mm-hmm. But you and I have both been out on a big bright full moon and had awesome fishing, at the dark of the moon and had awesome fishing. So sometimes you just throw your hands up and say, I'm not even going to try to figure this out. I'm going to go fishing.
Because I have guys that just go, I set this trip up for this, that, and the other thing. I go, all right, cool. I mean, as long as you can go fishing. And we go out and it's like, wow, what happened? I go, well, it's fishing, man. I don't pay attention. I think if guys think about it too much, then it gets in their head. I just think if you can go. If it's tough, chalk it up. Again, a tough day for me is 15 to 20 bass. But sometimes I have to put in perspective because 15 to 20 could be like a great day for somebody who never catches.
Right.
So have to put things in perspective.
I can already see a great day. I can see that you're successful not because you catch a lot of fish. That's a big part of it. But you're so personable. You're a teacher. You're a lot of fun to be with. So I can see going out with you on a day.
I try.
And not catching shit and having the best day of my life.
I try. I mean, you could, and there's days where it's, you're set up on a spot because, and in the summer or spring when the yellows are biting at cat and you're on a spot, and they're just, it's a jacuzzi all around the boat. And it's like, they can't get bit. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, come on. And then you cast a jig and you get bit. Here, hold on to this. It can be frustrating, but when you see somebody finally pull on one because they, especially like the 25 to 30 pound class. It's a whole new ball
when
game.
that light switch goes on in the anglers, then you feel like you're a teacher and the lesson's been absorbed.
At least they get a feel for it. It may be the first yellow ever they ever hooked. I mean, we all remember the first one we hooked. It's like, oh yeah. I want to do this again and again and again, right? So that's the whole goal, is to get somebody stoked on it and just want to go do that. Get that same feeling, right? It's like the first time, you're with your lady, or it's like got to do that over and over again.
Don't listen to this, Alex.
Hey, Benny, we kind of touched on flipping, punching, and you walked in here with a spinnerbait on your rod.
Yeah.
Do you do freshwater fishing?
I do not.
You do not. So how did you kind of get into those techniques? How did those get presented to you?
I lived from 2007 to 2012. I opened a restaurant up in Arroyo Grande. I live 15 minutes from Lopez Lake. It's a great lake. Great lake. I've got my PB largemouth there, 9.6 on a crank.
Jeez. For a guy that doesn't fish much.
Yeah, I had a 22 bay boat at the time, and it was rigged for calico fishing, right? But when I was done with it, I had rod holders, straps for the rods on both sides, and I put a meter on the bow, and I was all rigged for fresh and salt. So that's where I learned a lot of it. Didn't punch too much up there because there's not a lot of tulies or anything like that. But punching just made sense. Flipping makes sense because no conditions, and the fish haven't gone anywhere. They got to go somewhere. They got to still be there. How do you entice them to bite? And that's the challenge of fishing, right? I mean, with artificials is what you use to get them all jacked up to bite. That's always the goal, is to catch. Fishing is part of it, but catching is the goal. I always tell people when we go, okay, the goal today is it's been tough, but the goal today will be 20 bass. Okay, if we get 15, we get 18, man, we're pretty close to that goal. At least you feel that you're close to that. You get over, then you've exceeded it, and it was still a great day.
Absolutely.
So there's always a goal in mind. Okay, the goal today is to hook 5 yellows and get at least 1. Really? He goes, they're good ones. So we get 5, we've exceeded that goal.
Yeah.
So, But
did I see you down in El Salto? Did you go down there and fish once?
I went there, yeah.
How was that experience?
Oh, it's freaking incredible.
I love Mexico, number one.
Yeah.
So
because I love to power fish. I love to flip, and I love to throw swim bait. Because iron fishing, right?
Right.
And that's in case anybody doesn't know, that's in the state of Sinaloa in Mexico.
Yeah,
it's
2 hours away from Mazatlan.
Yeah.
Right. And great resort. Billy Chapman's lodge there. I mean, the guys are great. The fishing was great. We didn't catch any giants, but you're catching like 3 to 5 to 6s.
Those are big fish.
Those are
big fish.
You're dying to go there, aren't you?
That's one of my dream lakes to
100
go
plus
to.
bass a day.
God,
Can't beat
was
it.
Fun. I mean, we were on a crankbait for 2.5 hours in this little channel, and we were just laughing every cast, 3, 6, 7, just phenomenal. Like, can we just stay here till dark? Oh, we gotta go. They're biting, Then we went to another channel. It was biting the swim baits, 4-inch, and it was like fishing sand bass in the old day. You make a cast, thing sinks, all of a sudden, dunk, dunk, dunk,
love that, man.
Dunk, dunk. Then it was like, dunk. It was so much fun. So much fun. But yes, I did. And so that's where I learned to actually fish freshwater a little slower, all these different patterns. And when I was up there, I was never really a big, freshwater guy. I just learned. I just took one technique at a time, drop shot, spinner bait, and that sort of thing. But I fish cranks a lot in saltwater, so that wasn't new. I just had to figure out how these fish set up. So, but I took a lot of saltwater. I mean, I took a small Tatty C that was painted. Joey's making trout pattern surface irons for a while for striper guys.
Right.
So I had a bunch of those, and I was fishing largemouth for those.
did they bite them?
I caught little guys, but
Yeah,
I got
still,
bit.
that's awesome.
Swim jigs, the early swim jig days. It's basically a swim bait with a skirt on it. I was fishing 3/4 ounce with a 5-inch bait, so something similar to like this, but with a skirt on it, And I was getting them because it was just a different pattern, something different they saw, and I was getting them. So, and guys would see like 9-foot jig sticks in my rod holder. They go,
What
are you? Yeah. What are you doing? I go, I'm just fishing. Just trying to combine the two. So, and I think that's the thing about fishing calicos. I think nowadays, there's so many anglers fishing artificial, so many private boats, so many guys doing it because it's fun and it's the allure of trying to catch that trophy bass locally, where the fish are getting pressured, so they're seeing a lot of different things. So what are you going to do to try to get that bite, with whatever you have? There's so many lures out there nowadays. It's crazy.
I want to move to springtime now.
Yes.
So we've figured out that in the wintertime, maybe you want to go to
No,
bait,
it's
a leadhead and squid. And a lot of guys do that. Move to spring. And when I say spring, I mean, it's not like the fish have a calendar, right? We're talking about water temp.
Right,
pretty
exactly.
much, right?
Yep.
So when the water gets to what, 60?
60, yeah, 60.
And
61.
then how do you change your technique? How do you change your approach?
I try to keep it about the same. We have current. If we have current, I'm going to maybe fish up on the surface if I see more surface activity. The fish tend to get not so dormant, especially when that water temp, when there's no thermocline. So a thermocline, as you know, is where the water temp is warm on top, it's cold on the bottom, and there's this line that the fish don't go up or down on. They just stay in this zone. But once the water temp goes 61 top to bottom, and how do I find that out? Is when you see a lot of the divers out. He goes, hey, how's the water down there? It's as warm as the surface. Oh, okay. Or you can drop a thermometer down there and kind of get that. But once it starts to go top to bottom, then the fish will get more active. They'll come up, chase bait. And, they're out of their dormancy where they're not moving around and they're eating. They're apt to eat more because it's pre-spawn, which is roughly about middle of May going into July.
Yeah.
Through those months. So they're starting to eat more before they do their deal. And you'll start to see those females maybe come out of deeper water or out of their rocks or wherever they go and come in shallower. That's when you get those big ones.
And now is when you go to straight artificials, I'm guessing, much?
I will fish straight artificials, and I will fish. It all depends, what's around. Like, for example, what I'm seeing every May is the fish are eating small weedless type swim baits because we're fishing in the kelp where there's a lot of kelp, isolated kelp, anything like this to anything like this. So brownish, Not so much green yet. That's more going into June and July, but something like this. I think Gary caught his 10 last year on a color like this with a skirted swim bait head is what he caught it on.
In the springtime?
In the springtime,
Wow.
right. We fished there early May. So I guess that's early summer, late spring.
Yeah.
But we caught a lot of like that 5 to 7 pound stuff in shallow too. The fish are starting to move shallow. Like when I say shallow, we're talking 10 to 2 feet of water.
Wow.
So
getting one of those big bass in 2 feet of water is gotta
it's
be
good
just
stuff.
a
And that's
charge.
why you need that 65 pound, 40 pound, 50 pound leader, because always the fish see is this thing swimming. They're not looking to check if the leaders, they can see line.
Yeah.
They're keyed in mainly on the bait.
Yeah.
They just want to eat this thing like anything. And a lot of times they can suck one of these things down. And that's one thing I do teach a lot of my guests is that, fish don't eat like this. We freaking grovel. We chew that stuff up and swallow. These things, this thing's swimming around, right? Guy comes up to it, he's sucking it in with the water and everything and dispersing the water out, and this thing's back there in his chompers. So they could actually have it clamped down and maybe not the hook in there. So that's why instead of swinging, like the most common thing for anglers do when they get a bite is they jerk, right? You just want to keep winding because it feels like it's trying to get away. Then it comes deeper. Then the hook comes out of the bait, gets into the fish's mouth, then game on.
Excellent tips. Excellent tips. What about your favorite spot in the string? Will it be local? Would it be the islands?
It would be local.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, local is where all the big bites, anywhere from middle of April going in through May, and then once the middle of May happens, it tends to kind of peter off a little bit because those females will move off the beach, and then they're on deeper water getting ready to do the spawn. As you know, calico bass, sand bass, they don't bed like largemouth.
Right.
They aggregate. So it's the mating dance, right? The female comes out in the deep water, they lay their eggs, the males all come out there. That's why sport boat guys love it when those fish are spawning. You can catch a bajillion bass.
Yeah.
Bajillion of them because they're all out there.
And their eggs are pelagic. They float around,
Exactly.
right? Is that right? Yeah,
Right,
that's what
exactly.
I thought. And they're slow growers.
They're
like
slow
a legal
growers.
fish is what, 8 years old?
No, not that. So 14-inch fish is
Yeah.
probably about 5 years old.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, so, I mean, I let my guests keep bass. I mean,
You do. You're
I mean-
a mind reader. I was going to ask you. There's some guys that'll look like they want to frickin' murder you if you keep a bass.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I think that anybody who purchases a license, it has every opportunity. Now, 80% of my guests catch and release,
Yeah.
okay? And maybe their friends want to keep a couple. I just really do educate them on, listen, these things grow slow. So I would say a 2-pounder, maybe a 3-pounder is what you're going to get. Anything over that, we're going to release. That's it. And a lot of them don't want to kill and fill the sacks. I don't need a fish count,
Right.
My fish count is how many we caught.
And how happy your people
Exactly.
are.
Yeah, exactly. And what they learned is the big thing. But, if somebody, hey, you mind if we keep a couple for tacos? No, not at all. Keep a couple. It's all good.
As long as it's within the rules and the
Exactly.
Department of Fish and Wildlife,
Yep.
yeah, I don't see a problem either.
I don't either. I mean,
He does.
I don't see a problem with that.
I know.
I'm honestly on the same page you are, Benny. I personally don't keep calicos.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
Yep.
A rockfish tastes way better in my mind.
He learned that from his
and
father.
I don't lose any sleep.
Right.
But if people want to take calicos, I'm all for it. Even largemouth. There's a huge group of people that are completely against keeping largemouth.
Yeah.
And if you got your fishing license, you're doing it according to the law. You're not Mike Longing it out there.
Right.
You can keep your largies.
Yeah. I mean, by all means, I'm not out there to just, like I said, fill the sack. I mean,
Right.
if a guy gets a 20-pound yellow, man, that's a lot of slab.
lot,
That's
yeah.
a lot of fish.
And the
Especially,
limit is 10 on yellowtail, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Who needs that?
we've been in some white. How many can we keep? I go, you can keep 3.
Or we'll sink the boat.
I mean, and after that, I go, it's $20 a fish to fillet. It goes, I thought you do. It goes, it's my way of controlling the take. It's the right thing, probably not, but you know what? We have to be conscious about what we harvest, right? I mean,
Right.
how many people? I got my aunt, my uncle. Well, have them come fishing. I just think we have to be smart about it because it's not going to last forever, and really, let's catch like 30 of them and let them go. It's the best feeling.
I couldn't agree more because in everything in our society now, it seems it comes down to a binary choice. Either you release all calico bass or you keep all calico bass. And the answer is in the middle, right, with most of all this political stuff and everything else. If you get to the middle, you're in good territory. So I couldn't agree with you more. Keep a few if you want to. You like the fact that most people return them. I do too. But, be accepting if some guy wants to take a calico bass home and eat it.
Yeah. If you have something to prove to your wife, I'll take lots of pictures, right? We'll make you look like a star, man. And she can give you the grief going, well, you let that thing go? Well, I've got a couple here for dinner. You know what I mean? But
I think the wives just want to know that they went fishing and weren't doing something else.
Let's see that bar tab, fella. But for the most part, all the anglers have been very cognizant of what they take. So it's really good. Really good. I think the sport boat guys have educated them, and then we're just trying to educate people on, things like this.
Yeah, and I'm kidding, Phil, but we were down, Patrick and I went to Ensenada here recently, I think for Dia de los Muertos. We went down there for Day of the Dead, and we went out with our favorite guy, Diego Nuno. He has a little 18-foot Parker, and we went calico bass fishing. And so we got our first calico, and Diego looks at Patrick and I, and he goes, Philip's not here. Are we keeping him today? And I said, we got a whole bunch of guys at the Rosarito Beach Hotel waiting for these calico bass, so we kept a bunch. And
That's
took
awesome.
them to the staff at the hotel. But I admire you for that, kid.
Yeah, these guys I caught a 5 out there with them, and they looked at me like I was insane throwing that fish back. And I'm like, there's no way. Same with that big bass I caught at Catalina. I was with 2 greenhorns, basically.
And they wanted to eat it.
They're like, you're not letting that go. And I go, I'm letting it go.
Right.
And they're like, dude, you're not. It almost caused a fight on the boat. And I got this bass, and I threw it up into the kelp and watched it go down because the guy had a gaff in his hand and everything. I was like, there's no way this fish is dying today.
Right.
Do you remember the bass Patrick released in the bow of the Parker we were on by accident?
This was a huge cluster. We literally take this Parker and go straight into the kelp forest and start fishing bass. We had a tank of sardine. I threw out on my 15-pound because that's what I fished back in the day out of Redondo. It was Rocky Point, right? Before they did the closure.
Right around Rocky.
I was winding my sardine in, and I start looking for where I'm going to make a cast, and a 35-pound sea bass came up and smoked it by the boat. Right in front of me.
Like in slow motion.
That's awesome.
It was like opened its mouth and ate the bait.
It was insane. And I had the bass rod in one hand, and I'm like staring at it, and I remember he was looking at me because I looked dumb, and I just went like that, and it just dug into the kelp.
Oh, wow.
This is the light switch just went on. It wasn't only that sea bass.
Everything. The calico started going nuts.
Wow.
Patrick was catching little ones in the bow while I'm fighting the sea bass, and we're driving the boat trying to get it out of the kelp. Next thing we know, Patrick's screaming, and he's got a fish that's on the boat, flopping on the deck, on the bow, that's about 8 pounds. And we're telling him to just grab it and bring it back. We need a picture.
Right.
He bounced it without slacking the line off, so he had this like,
doing.
He was young.
Yeah.
Went right back over the side.
Oh.
And I was just like, God. And
that's
then
where it belonged.
I ended up popping the sea bass off.
No,
at the
you
same
didn't.
time.
You had Josh with a knife.
Oh, that's right. And Josh was a little inexperienced at the time. And he was trying to cut the kelp.
And cut the line? Oh.
But it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
He felt terrible about it. I didn't even bring it up.
Yeah, happens.
Just go, hey, tie another hook on, keep fishing.
Right.
And then he never invited Josh back again. That was that. Yeah, terrible. Yeah, so many great stories about that kind of fishing.
Absolutely.
That was the Rocky Point area. When I fished with John Dipley, did you know him?
Oh, yeah.
Dipley ran the Redondo Special, and, we basically were 24 hours a day.
Jeez.
It was a freaking half-day boat.
Right.
We dumped the people off at 6 o'clock in the evening, and then Catalina, Squid, and be in to pick up our passengers at 7:30. But there were days with 600. I mean, maybe we're at fault for the lack of calico bass, but you go with 60 people and come out of there with 600 bass up at Vincente.
Wow.
And so that territory
Vincente.
really well.
Oh.
Yeah, right?
Oh, I drive by there. I drove by there a couple times this year coming to Santa Monica, and you see foaming yellows. Because that place in the summer.
Yeah.
Oh,
those
yeah.
yellows are on that outside, right on that edge right there, foaming. I was with some guys from Shimano, and they go, "Can we?" I go, "Nope, just don't look there.
Don't even look."
God, look at those things. Oh, my God.
It's God, that just drive you crazy.
You just
right?
can't do it. Nowadays, like just warning for everybody out there. There's cameras there, and there's people that call. So I would just, I know the bass. There's been a couple times where you see bass chasing bait, birds working on the inside there, and they're good ones. He goes, just keep driving, don't even look.
Maybe you could like run a chum line and just keep going, nice and slow, and slow, and get out of the area.
Paul Strasser told me, he goes, "Hey, have you been up there when it's foggy yet? They can't see you." I go, "No."
All right, let's move to summertime.
Yeah.
What happens in the summertime?
Oh, summer's just good stuff. All surface.
Is that the best time to fish?
Yeah.
Summer and fall.
You're late June going into July, August. Yellowtail, calico bass. That's all, and it's mainly Catalina for me. But I do a lot of local, like my full day trips. I can do anything from Newport to Malibu. If I know of something happening, I'll run that. I have a 25-foot Ranger Bay. It's powered with a 300 Mercury Verado, 100 gallons of fuel.
How fast do you go?
Max has been 51.
Jeez. Woo.
But that's, that's all relative.
Yeah, right. But you can still book to anywhere you need to go.
So, give you an idea, one of the best days coming home from the west end of Clemente, 57 miles on a pretty good day, hour and 20 minutes.
Jeez.
40 knots.
Half day fishing at San Clemente Island.
Music blaring. Yeah, so.
How bitchin' is that?
It's the best.
Yeah.
Didn't have you only get so many days in your life like that.
Right.
And when they do, waste all the fuel you can because it'll be the only time. So, but I'll just, anything surface-wise. Surface. A lot of this size here. 7-inch, 8-inch, jerk bait. This happens to be a Colt Sniper 140, and they call it green grunion. Anything that looks, mackerel,
surface
sardine
iron?
type. Surface iron, definitely surface iron. Yeah, we're talking your mints, mint whites, anything like that. So anything like this is all good.
How important is color?
I don't know. I don't think it is. As long as the thing swims good.
Yeah.
I think most jig guys will tell you that. Mint is good for yellows. Mint white traditionally for yellows, but the bass eat it too. It looks like a mackerel, it looks like a sardine. But I think as long as the thing swims and it's going fast, you're gonna get bit.
I think back in the day when we were fishing albacore, I used to talk to the jig boats that fished albacore. And of course, all of us guys on the San Diego fleet, we were like, "What color do we drag back there? Let's do this and do this." And I talked to a jig boat one time, and he said we troll two colors, black and white.
Yeah.
And so maybe it is just the way the jig moves, and the rest of it is to entice anglers into buying.
Back in the day, how many different colors did we have? In the early 70s, you had black and white, blue and white, and I think green and yellow.
That's what I was going to... I love that freaking green and yellow. That was good for calicos
and yellows.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I love that color.
You only had three colors.
Right.
We didn't have the choice like this going on, where you had... Right. And then you have, like this going on, where you had, all the flashy stuff. So, not nowadays. But that's a benefit for the anglers nowadays. Back in the day, we had what we had, but I think anglers nowadays have so many choices as far as tools to catch fish, and not to get caught up in it. If the deckhand says, they're just biting blue and white, fish a blue and white.
Yeah.
That's a key thing when, whether you're coming out with a guide or a sport boat, go to the guys that work on the boat every day. Hey, what jig are they biting? Especially in the summer, what jig are they biting? Mint white, mint, and blue and white. I would have at least one of those tied on.
But, and again, you're making a great point. People will ask me sometimes, what should I use when I go fishing? And I'm like, go ask Benny. He's out on the water every single day. I'm sitting in an office.
Right.
Ask the deckhand. Yep. They're not out there to trick you most of the time. They're out there. They want you to catch fish. Absolutely. They want you to have a good time. Every captain wants you. Listen to the guys who are on the water day in and day out.
It's huge. I'll talk to the guys on the radio sometimes, and he goes, how's that sardine bite? He goes, it's been kind of tough, and you say, well, it's summer, they should be eating it, but sometimes they just don't want to eat it. The benefit of sardine fishing, which is great for us here on the West Coast, is in the summertime, live or dead sardine, you're going to catch fish all day long. We've caught yellows on chunk sardine just because I have a small boat. I got to utilize every piece of bait I have. So the liver ones I'm going to use for the yellows when they come up, but chunking the dead ones for chum.
And that goes against some of the people who say, a good hot bait is important. But the other day we were fishing calico bass, and I did what you were talking about. Yep. I found a bait that on Tom Durr's boat, his little boat, somebody had stepped on it. You were there.
Yep.
You know, it was a piece of crap, right? And I go, I got to see this. I put it on. I toss it out. Nice big bass.
Summertime, you can fish on an 1/8 ounce sliding sinker, a dead sardine. You're going to catch bass all day. I am not kidding you, guys. Guys just trip when they see that. Go, seriously, fish the dead ones first till the yellows come up. Yeah, but don't we? Because the yellows they're not up yet. When they do, I'll have you switch.
That's an important. I think that's an important piece of information.
100%. It goes against everything I've learned fishing. It's the bait hits the deck. You grab a new bait.
Right.
You don't use that, but that's awesome with Calico.
For summertime, for calico fishing. I mean,
and probably on a private boat, right? Because you have a little more competition on a sport boat
Exactly.
with all those really live baits around you.
Yeah. Plus sport boat, they have all the bait you want.
Right. Yeah.
And you have choice. But I do suggest that, anglers spend a little extra time at the bait well. Spend that extra second. Just come up for air. Just spend an extra time, or ask the deckhand what is the best. What's a good looking bait? It's okay to ask. They don't have a problem answering it. And a lot of times they'll throw one in the well in front of you. Goes, that's a good one.
Yeah, all the time, right? They'll tell you, and they know.
Yep. They'll tell you how to handle the bait. And one of the biggest mistakes anglers will make is they'll death grip that bait.
Right.
And that's why I handle all the bait on my boat. My guests do not touch the bait. I do it because, one, I don't want scales all over the handles and all that, or all over the boat. But two, we only have so many live baits. I want to make sure it's on there good and it gets out in the water. I'll even cast it for them, just so that they're there. But
that is really good information. There are guys in San Diego. I remember Joe Chait, when we'd go on the conquest to the bait receiver, he would never, ever use nets to load bait. It was bucketing the bait.
Yeah.
Because you don't knock the scales
Right.
off. It preserves the bait, keeps them good and hardy. So there's kind of a double message here. One, the calico bass in the summer will bite the dead bait.
Yep.
But when you're fishing yellows, or you're in the spring or the late fall and fish are a little touchier, then you want to use that good hot bait and take care of the way you present the bait
absolutely.
and use the bait.
But in the summertime too, you have more opportunity to catch yellows on surface iron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the iron
Which
rod
one?
of my
This one?
choice, is I like fishing 9-foot rods. I know
I do
nowadays
too.
a lot of anglers, they like the 8-foot, with a bait caster. But anything like for me, a Trinidad 20A, and I like 80. I like to pull hard on these things, and I like them to get on the boat, right?
Yeah, you're talking my language,
And
man. I got these guys on Cortez Bank, and I told them, put 100 on there. And
Yeah.
we fished 100.
We were yo-yoing 100-pound.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was you versus the drag's pinned, and it's you versus that yellow. You're either catching the yellow or you're going over.
That's fun.
Yo-yoing a Calico 12 with a 100 pound, no problem. Bunk, and you wind them to the boat. 30-pound yellow, especially at the Cortez, those mean guys that come up on the bank.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to give them no quarter. Same in the summer when those bigger yellows are on some of the reefs. You really want to jack those things. And again, 9-foot rod, for a lot of my guests, it's a little tough. But, I'm fishing a Tranks 500. This has 80 and 60-pound leader. I'm fishing the AFCO's Psycho Pro. And this is 50 here, but this is the stuff there. So, and it's great. I help field test it. That's one thing I do. I field test for Shimano, and I've been working with AFCO on some other product, and some more companies want me to test some of their product. Because
Have you tested anything recently that we might be interested in that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, there's some of these new surface lures. Won't call them iron because they're not iron.
We can get the intern to untangle that if you want.
We're almost there. Okay.
Okay.
So if you recognize this color, a lot of people don't, but this is the old GM green.
Oh, I thought it was like the Notre Dame green.
But this is called a Colt Sniper Sidewinder. So it's a surface lure. It's being released in Japan right now. And again, we're bringing the West Coast type of fishing to the rest of the world.
Oh, wow.
They have what's called jacks, right? They're a kingfish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Guess what they eat? Just like our yellowtail.
Yeah, man.
Imagine hooking an 80-pound, 100-pound kingfish, surface iron.
I see those fish all the time because I'm friends with some Japanese fishermen. Oh my God, they have some pretty damn good fishing over in that neck of the woods.
They do.
Yeah.
So it's one thing. This is actually
Is that working good?
yes.
Yeah.
Very good. I've lost a couple to some like giants, big. Here, you can take a look at it.
What's it made out of?
It's injected. So
You've lost a couple to the giants.
big yellows at.
Don't
at
lay him
Clemente.
around here. You might lose one to Alex. I'll tell you. He's got his eye on it right now.
So, and I'll fish it with a clips to change. This is like a
bitchin'.
125-pound clip. This is one that's been working really, really good at Clemente for bass. Yes.
Those are bitching,
Yeah,
aren't
it
they?
is.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a scrambled egg looking one. I had a squid looking one. Man, that thing was
That's
getting
awesome.
chewed, yeah. So it's just some of the things I've been messing with, and besides the fluorocarbon and some other baits, and also some reels that I can't talk about that'll be released in Japan this year. So
Do you know?
Excellent.
Do you know when those will be available here?
spring is what they're telling me.
Okay,
So
something to look forward to.
yeah, but I help field test the Corrado DC, Corrado 300, Corrado Ks, all the Tranks models, and I don't know what else. Toriums when they first came out, but I do a lot of that. A lot of the rods. So just because I'm out there and I don't take care of my stuff, so it's a good way to see corrosion and things break real quick. It's
How
a good
many
way to-
days a year do you fish?
Last year was 260.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, remember, I don't have a season when it comes to bass fishing. Catch those things year round, whether it's Catalina, Clemente, Santa Barbara, the coast, or in Inner Harbor. Inner Harbor fishing spotty, sand bass.
Do you do a lot of that? Mm-hmm. That's pretty fun. I did
Especially-
that with a guy. What was his name? Mike. Geez, this is 100 years ago.
Gardner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Gardner. He's gone, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. I fished with Mike, and man, we went out and had 100 fish
Yeah.
days in the harbor. It was pretty
You
fun.
can catch a bunch on light tackle. Yeah, it's fun, especially around March when you get a lot of wind outside. And you asked me about the spinnerbait, right, Philip? This is my spinnerbait outfit. I was fishing in a tournament yesterday down in Mission Bay. This is my spinnerbait outfit right here. This is 50-pound Power Pro Max Quattro, so it's like 40-pound. It's a 200 size DC reel, Corrado DC. It's on a medium rod. See the flex on
Oh
it.
yeah.
The one thing about this rod, it's versatile. I can throw a deep diving crankbait, I can throw a swim bait, throw a jerk bait, can throw a wax wing, can throw a lot of different things. And this is a 1 ounce war baits spinnerbait. And look how big this thing is.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's beefy.
We're catching, spotties like this big to this big.
That's crazy.
But I've also caught sea bass up at Furman. I've caught yellowhoes. We've caught big sand bass in the wall. But that late winter, early spring, this stuff works really, really well in the Inner Harbor and along with the other swim baits and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's what spinnerbait, spotties, especially when there's a lot of grass, or riprap. Riprap meaning rock walls, break
Yep.
walls. Yeah.
Benny, it's obvious if you don't have a boat,
Mm-hmm.
you should go fishing with you. But it's dawned on me that guys that are just newbies getting a
Mm-hmm.
skiff, they could go out with you and learn so much. Do you mind that?
No,
mean,
I do get guys that ask me. In fact, I have a lot of guys that have their own boats, but for them, they may work 6 days a week, 5 days a week, and going, listen, Ben, I have a boat, it's a nice boat and all that, but man, by the time, we have to think of preparation, right? You got to put fuel, you got to get ice, got to get food, you got to get tackle ready,
Intel.
and then when it's time to go, it's like, where are we going to go? Oh, we're going to go follow Woodrum on the pursuit.
Yeah.
No, not a good idea.
Yeah,
not
no.
a good idea. I think.
Not unless you want to jig through your window.
You just don't want to be chasing those guys.
Yeah. Seriously, that is a bad idea.
It
To all the
is.
private boaters
It
who are
is.
listening, go
Yeah.
find your own fish. And
Yeah.
plus, these guys get a little testy about that.
They do, and I just think the whole thing about having your own boat and finding your own fish is always
Yeah.
me like I'll have guests going, hey, I heard the yellowtail are biting on the east end and all the boats are there. Oh, that's good for them. I'm going on the west and finding my own stuff. He goes, but don't you? I go, no. It's better if we find them, and when we do find them,
You got it
they're
all
like,
yourself.
They're like, wow, there's nobody here. I go, yeah, it's been biting for a week, and they're there, and I get that part. Or if I see guys, if I'm sitting on a spot. Hey, Johnny, stuff's biting here. Run your sonar and check it out. I'll be glad to move. I only need 1 or 2 fish and 50 calicos in the summer, and I'm good. He's got 30 passengers or whatever they're carrying now, and he's got numbers to make. I get it. Called lots of guys. Take my spot. It's cool. I don't have a problem with it. It's not what I see on his meter. I don't see, okay, cool. But here it is.
That's an interesting thing too. Is can you go over the do's and don'ts when you're fishing around sport boats?
Oh, I do that when guys want me to learn about it. Yeah. So, I mean, if the whole front side's biting, and the front side of Catalina, I'm talking about from the east end to Long Point, and there's a certain area that bites every summer, and it's all yellowtail, right? And it's from Toyon to Frog, from Toyon to Long Point. That whole stretch up there, there's Sally's Galley, there's other places up there that all bite. And I would just, if I was a private boater kind of motoring in there, I would come in really slow and pick a spot. If you see several sport boats lined up, I would either set up outside of them, up off his bow. Depends. Watch the anglers. Take about 10 minutes and watch what anglers are doing, because sometimes that chum line, all that chum goes up in the bow, and you get the jig throwers up on the bow casting the yellows on the bow. Then I wouldn't set up there, but I would probably set up at least 50 yards either to the port side or the left side of the boat away, or the right side or the starboard side away. If you see 2 sport boats in the kind of set up next to each other, and you see kind of enough distance between them, you can set up in the middle. I would set up off the bow of the boat. So this is the front of the boat. That's the other front of the boat. I would kind of set up just this side of them, just away from them. But never, never, never cruise behind any of the boats that are there.
And you shouldn't be within casting distance.
Never be.
Right?
Never. Just survey the land.
And you're so right. I mean, go in there. Please, just back off on ripping through their chum line, because nothing pisses these guys off more. I mean, I can remember back in the day when I was a kid, frickin' you work hard to get that chum line and get those fish walking up the line and get them in the corner, and then some frickin' maniac comes blaring through there and F's up the whole thing.
Yep. No, and that's just, again, I get it that, boat ownership's real easy nowadays, and guys just need to learn that, you just got to have some common sense about it. I mean, anything from driving a boat, when you come at another boat, it's just like driving a car. One guy on the left, one guy on the right, one's coming this way, one's going that way. Don't cut in front of the other guy. It's just common sense. But
unless you're in China. That blew it. Right? Oh, my God. When I first got my first Uber, you're sitting, you're going to make a left-hand turn in front of traffic.
Yeah.
You just turn in front of oncoming, rip-roaring traffic. That's how it works, right?
It's insane.
Wow.
It's just culturally different,
right?
And everything feels like your life's in danger.
That's awesome. In a car, walking around China.
Walking around's fine.
Right.
Driving on a moped with my brother running the moped, constant fear for your life.
What's your ethnicity? You're
Filipino.
Have you ever been to the Philippines?
Never been.
Oh my God, I spent a month there here recently. It's great. We gotta go to Palawan and fish. There's so much good fishing.
Yeah, my mom just tell me, you gotta go there. I go, well,
someday.
Yeah.
We're not too old yet, Benny.
No, not yet. Yeah.
Let's move into the fall.
Okay.
Is there any difference between fishing the fall and the summer?
Yeah, fall I'll still fit. It depends what's going on, but I start moving to fishing that outer island. I like fishing Clemente.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the yellows bite and the bigger bass. They're starting to gear up for winter time. So they're eating big baits. You get them on the surface iron and the big weedless. I mean, the surface iron all day long. I mean,
that's
they
fun.
bite.
Favorite spots at Clemente?
Love the West End. And the East Nine around China up to Seal.
You don't go up to Eel Point, the middle.
I do
Yeah.
sometimes, but sometimes you don't need to. There's really not a need.
Right.
Up by the dunes, because a lot of times you could swing wide and you'll see yellows out there splashing around. So those are always bonus. But nothing like throwing a weedless or a surface iron. A weedless especially. I mean, long cast and wine. Again, weedless bait is. We call weedless. That's one thing about the way baits are made now. This is technically a weedless bait with the brush guard, with the weed guard on it, but this is a true weedless swim bait, because weedless meaning the hook's not exposed, and you can throw this thing right on the edge of the kelp or in the kelp, and it'll come over the top. Fish come up and just gum. But you can burn something like this, and no.
That's what I wanted to ask. Is what's your retrieval rate between those baits?
Oh, it's like this.
Fast, right?
It's fast, right?
As fast as you can go.
Remember that?
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I love
those things come up and blow
They
up on it.
fly out of the water. Big fish.
I didn't think you turn the handle as fast as you can, and we did it. We
my gosh.
were out, and man, it works, huh? It's pretty bitchin'.
Yeah, and if anything, if you see fish chasing it, don't stop.
No.
Right. Keep
Once
going.
you stop, they stop. You know, that's the most common mistake is, and it goes, oh my gosh, there's one, I'll stop it. And I go, no, don't stop it. Because then they go, oh, it's doing something different. It's not running away from me. And they tend to just, you'll have one maybe eat it, but not the right one. The right ones just, you'll see little ones chase it, little ones bite at it, bite at the tail. You know, they kind of come up doing this. Big one come up and just inhale it.
And that's the beauty of those baits, those bigger baits. You're eliminating those smaller fish.
Exactly.
And you're getting your trophy catch.
I mean, I do get guests that come out and goes, yeah, I'm gonna go down to like a 4-inch bait. I go, but you're here at San Clemente Island. You're here to catch trophies, right? Put the time in and get a trophy. You know,
Right.
If your trophy's 5 pounds, let's get 5 pounders. If your trophy's 6 pound, let's get 6 pounder. If you're thinking beyond that, let's get 8s. You know, so.
Benny, I'm not trying to get you in trouble with your wife with this question, okay? But here we go. You're on a desert island, and you can only bring one thing with you, and I'm talking about a rig, to fish calico bass, the best. What do you bring? A weedless bait?
Surface iron.
Surface iron would be the number one. Mm-hmm. Why?
I'll throw that thing all day because it draws big bites.
Yeah.
Big bites, yellows, sea bass. It just draws bigger bites. You catch little ones, but it tends to draw
bigger
bites.
bass.
Yeah.
Remember I told you about my brother catching that big bass, and they had like 6 to 10 pound fish down there that day. It was all surface iron. You're right.
Yep.
It's all surface iron. Him and Alvarez were just fishing around San Martin Island and just had a banner day. This is God Almighty. This is like 35 years ago. Now that I think about it,
I was at Cedros Island staying with Jeff Mariani at Cedros Kayak Adventures, and we fished bonitas one day. Right. So the morning we boiler fish. I'm fishing a 9-inch swim bait, 1.5 ounce head, trying to get a big one. My biggest one was over 7. And then for the rest of the day, we're fishing kind of points and flats and stuff. I threw the iron for like 8 hours that day.
Wow.
Just because you see them come up, chase it, and you'll see 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. Then you'll see yellow push them all out.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
So
It's
cool.
the best. The guys I was with didn't want to fish on the bow, and I go, oh, I'm all about it. I was on vacation. I was drinking beers and fishing for fish. You know, I got to fish. So nothing like it. Nothing like fishing surface. I think I brought 1 swim bait rod and 3 surface iron rods.
That's so much fun.
Favorite time of the year to fish calico bass? What's the best time?
Fall, late fall, early winter. You're talking October, November, and even to December.
Why?
The fish, in California, we still have pretty darn good weather. It's generally flatter, so you can fish the outer island, San Clemente, Santa Barbara, and the fish just want to bite. We had tremendous Novembers. Looking at the log, November around Thanksgiving has been tremendous, where some of the bigger bass are caught on surface iron. I didn't get a big one this year. I think my biggest was 7. And I mean big.
That's giant.
Not
Big
being big,
fish.
and we're talking like 8 and 9. Because in 2019, I got 5 over 9.
God.
Jeez.
One at 9.8, one 9.6. But anyways, yeah.
What is the state of the fishery? How do you feel like the
Oh my
calico
gosh.
bass fishery is?
It's good. I think at first that whole 12 to 14, the 14-inch thing was bothering people, but man, you catch a lot of 12.5 to 13-inch fish, tons
That's
all
great.
day. And you see, like you'll throw like chum out, and you'll see all these fish every size come out. I think the sport boat guys have done a great job of managing, that. I think the 5-fish limit has really helped out quite a bit. And I think everybody's just effort to conserve, just harvest what you need and then, let the rest go. I think catching 40, 50 bass and maybe catching 2, that's good.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of 100-plus day bass fishing on artificials and bait this past year, just phenomenal fishing, whether it's on the coast or at Catalina or San Clemente, just phenomenal.
Is there a bunch of kelp loss out there?
I would say, yeah. We have had warmer years, and it just looks the same. I don't think we lost any. It looks the same. Hasn't grown anymore, and we haven't lost anymore.
And we have, the scientists are saying 100% La Nina, so we'll have cold water. We should get a lot of kelp growth.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's Mother Earth, and she does what she wants.
Well, you're absolutely right. These La Nina predictions in the spring can go right out the window.
It can.
Yeah.
Do we want cold weather and hurt that, for the tuna guys? Do we want? Who knows? We don't know.
Right.
We don't know where, and how these big ones and little ones. I was fishing. I don't fish tuna. I leave that to the pros. Honestly, I'm not. I can't fly the kite. I can't balloon fish, even though there's some guys in small boats that do it. I don't. I prefer to catch lots of bass and some yellowtail. But this year I did one trip when that bluefin was off the west end of Cat, when it was very accessible. Oh, we got 2 full days. I think Gary sent me a text on Saturday. He goes, dude, stuff's on the west end. You might want to check it out.
Get up here.
That Monday I went out there, it was easy limits at like 10 o'clock.
Wow.
Oh, it was.
That's
what grade of fish?
It's that 40-pound bluefin.
That's just beautiful, man.
Oh, it's spinning gear? Oh, it feels good.
Hey, next time, you do me a favor. Steve went, and he went the day after it shut off. So
on Thursday?
Cue him in on it.
Yeah, I knew not to go
Job,
Thursday.
Steve.
Because Wednesday was kind of like the downside. But it reminded me of the 2014-15 when the yellows were here. It was like a bajillion boats, everybody catching.
Right.
which is good to see. But again, that etiquette thing was thrown out the door.
You know what's great, and I know you can relate to this. When you're on the water a lot, you get a feel for how things are going to go. You know when they're going to bite, where they're going to bite. You really get in tune with nature, don't you? Seriously.
You do. And for me, it's I've learned not to be as stubborn. Where it's like, oh, I know they're going to bite, and they're going to bite. You have to look at your surroundings. Go, well, maybe we'll come back here later when things look better. We'll go look at something that might be better. I don't stay on one spot very long. I kind of fish it, 10, 20 casts, ain't gonna happen. Let's go. Well, what about the time? Well, we'll go look at something else. We'll come back here later. I just try to optimize my catching time based on tide, and I look at the tide chart and pay attention. Some places bite better near the bottom of the tide versus the top of the tide versus the incoming and the outgoing. So for me, I look a lot about that. I have great electronics. I have the Solex 15 12 Humminbirds on mine that has side scan, up and down scan, sonar. It's got all that stuff, but it helps as far as tides and seeing stuff. But a lot of times you see all that. Sometimes I'd rather turn this stuff off and just fish by feel than, because you see them, they're stacked up, they won't bite. Oh, there they are. They don't want to bite. Let's go. Come back when there's optimum conditions.
Yeah. It's great to have. What I was going to say is, will you ever retire? Because when you're doing something you truly love, and I know there's probably a grind to this too, but man, when you are fortunate enough to do what you felt like you were made to do and what you truly love in life, man, you hit a freaking home run, right?
Yeah, like most sport boat guys will tell you, and anybody in the industry go, hey, we're not going to get rich doing this, but sure beats being in an office or a restaurant for 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
You know what it's like. We work 12, 14, whatever hours, but it don't feel like it,
Right.
and you meet some fantastic people along the way
You
and
do.
have some great opportunities. I don't know. I had that conversation with my wife, and she goes, just do it however long you want to do it. It's great. That summer grind, you're on automatic, though.
Yeah,
You're on automatic.
Matt, your son, actually had me ask you the question. He contributed about how you went from sport boat to private boat to tournament champion, fishing the tournaments. Do you change how you fish in the tournaments, or do you fish exactly like what you've described here today? That's certainly more competitive, and perhaps there's more strategy involved.
Yeah, there's a lot more strategy, but you have to be more precise in your strategy. You still have to figure tides and where you've caught them. You have to do more homework. Like we fished a tournament yesterday. What we did in practice did not match to what we did yesterday. We were catching, and we caught a bunch of fish. We caught 30, 40 bass. And in anybody's life, that's a great day
Damn right.
in the bay.
Yeah.
And I caught them all in spinnerbait.
Where was this? Down in Newport?
Mission Bay.
Oh, okay.
Mission Bay. And it was a tough tournament for everybody to catch legals, 14-inch spotted bay bass. So we had one legal spotted bay bass. My son had two, but they got 8th place. So it gives you an idea. They had like 2.4 total weights. Gives you an idea of how tough the fishing was.
Right. Yeah.
I think there was maybe 1 or 2 limits weighed in, and the rest had three or 2 fish. So, but I do take that same strategy, get a little more intense. But I've learned that it's not for $100,000, and it's more for fun. And sure, I mean, it's just like getting into jackpot on the boat. You always want to catch the big one, right? I mean, that's always in the back of your mind, but fun is always in the front of your mind. You got to enjoy it, which I do enjoy it. I did tell myself, and I told my son that this year I'm going to probably do less bait fishing at the island and setting up on spots, because I felt like I was getting more into the sport boat aspect, setting up, fishing bait, and relying on that than how I set myself up in the beginning, and that's just fishing bass and just hunting them down and finding them and having that. So I may do less bait fishing, but it's hard not to in the summer when you set up on some of the spots and they're biting.
Yeah.
You catch 100 bass on a couple of spots, it's really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. How much credit do you give fishing to your relationship with your son, Matt? He's an accomplished angler now. Like if I would say to this guy, let's, sit on the couch and we'll talk for the next 6 hours, he'll look at me like I should be committed to a mental institution. But if I say, let's jump on the half-day boat for 6 hours and we go out and talk, we're good. So fishing really, it can be a cement that brings families together. It's
Matt, I would have never thought Matt would get in the fishing industry, because he graduated Cal Poly Pomona with a e-commerce degree, right? So he worked for Sport Chalet. Remember Sport Chalet?
Yeah.
He worked for them as an employee and then got into their e-commerce at their home office, and then wasn't getting paid much. And he goes, "That's okay. It's good for my resume." So, and then the AFCO job came up, as an e-commerce. He was the only person there, and now he's director of marketing for AFCO. Our relationship has always been about fishing's been the central. We talk about it.
Yeah.
He bounces ideas off me. I bounce them off him. He asks my opinion. I give him, because he knows we both are honest. Oh, that's a bunch of crap. Why would, you know what I mean? But here's why, so he gets my understanding of my thought process. It has. I mean, I talked to him before I came here, and talked to him yesterday, but a lot of it is centralized around fishing. I happen to be an AFCO pro, and my boat's wrapped in AFCO. But I have to thank the Shed family, for that, for giving Matt the opportunity of that and giving him the position. And now he's dealing with pros like Mike Iaconelli and Jason Christie and, people all over, So he's got a really big job in helping support our industry.
Would you counsel new parents with kids to get them into something in the outdoors? Do you feel like that makes a person a better person? A happier person.
I think that it definitely draws people together because you're doing it as a unit. I know we don't do it enough at home, but I think families that fish together get along together.
The family that fishes together stays together, right?
I get a lot of father-daughters, father-sons. I've had moms and kids come out just because they want to see what it's all about, and it's in a smaller venue, small. Well, my boat's 25, but you know what I mean. Everything's close, and I had a lot of different people on the boat, and it's great. But I think getting kids out in the outdoors is definitely, and I think we were forced to last year. And you see that with boat sales and bike sales and RV sales where people are getting out more. But I think nothing's wrong with fishing, man. It's probably the purest way to get out there and have fun.
Speaking of getting kids into the great outdoors, this intern we've been talking to you about today, right? Alex Lind came here for one reason, to get a photograph with his hero.
Yeah.
He's Benny Florentino. I'm
That's
not kidding
awesome.
you.
He's been here since 8 a.m.
What?
Yes, yeah. And we haven't fed him or anything.
Oh, my goodness.
No, we
You
tried
better
to
get double
him to
time
feed
for
us.
that.
So he's a 14-year-old kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
He loves you. He wants to come up here and from the perspective of a 14-year-old kid, ask you a couple questions. So
Sure.
first, going to jump
Absolutely,
out of
Alex.
here for a second. Alex was born in China, so I spent my last 3 years in China.
Wow.
His dad has got a freaking pond full of 5 to 10 pound bass
What?
up near Beijing. We're going to go, and I'm going to get on you to fly over there with us, and we'll pop over to the Philippines while we're over in that neck of the woods.
That's
But
awesome.
seriously, Alex, it's great to have you here, man. Give me 5. Make sure you ask an intelligent question.
Nice
Yeah.
meeting you, Alex.
I just want to ask. So I've been fishing for 2 years, and I've always had like this 1 week that I feel like I had like a very big improvement from fishing. What did you learn from like your prime time for like a year or like a week of fishing? Like, what did you learn from that 1 week that's like that made you better?
It's something I explained to a lot of guests. I go, the number one thing is the fish swim out there. In order to get there, casting is probably the number one thing that I think a lot of people should focus on. You could have the best gear in the world that says, better casting, free spool, drag, the line is, this, that, the lure is this. But if you can't get there, you're not going to get it. You know what I mean? Hopefully that's the question you answer. But I think a lot of anglers, especially new ones, don't spend time. I know when I was learning, and I learned this from Frank Lopresti, tie a clothespin to your line and practice casting, right?
God, that's when we were fishing anchovies.
I
I remember that.
You
Where
practice-
did he say that? At seminars? or
I
what? 'Cause
don't
that's in my
remember.
head, too.
Yeah, but I just know practicing casting, and I watch people cast all the time, and they have hitches, or I call it billy bobbing, where they go from here and they end up with the reel pointing that way. Where West Coast, we turn it over like this.
Yes.
Okay, you go from 2 o'clock here and you end up at 9 o'clock here, looking pretty, rod facing out there, lines going down and out, reel facing that way. Makes you feel better, makes you look better.
It does,
And the
huh?
cast goes a long ways.
Yeah.
If you keep an eye on cooks, deckhands, and captains when they cast, they'll do the same thing. 2 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they do this motion here. Boom. Like whenever you talk to somebody about fishing, they're either like this, or they go, yeah, we made some casts like out there, man. We got them good. You know that they have that mechanics. So that's my 2 cents about that. Hopefully that's the question you were asking.
Yeah, and then my second question is, in the first year of fishing, I just fished on sporting boats, just fly lining sardines, stuff like that. And I caught my first swimbait fish
Oh, nice.
like a year ago or something, and like I've gotten really into swimbait fishing. So a lot of my friends are just like wanting to know how to fish like the bigger swimbaits, like weedless and just like normal swimbaits.
Yeah, unfortunately for sport boats, they have to satisfy the whole boat, and a lot of times they won't back up into the kelp and fish unless you're maybe fishing with Jeff on the Amigo, and they're done. They're just going to finish up fishing bass, and they usually set up on the edge of kelp. Then you can fish it. But I think to just start, that 5-inch weedless is a perfect way to fish, because it'll get lots of bites and you'll start getting confident. Then you can move up to a 7-inch and just eliminate the smaller fish. If you're just going after bigger ones, then I would just stay with the 7-inch and just put time in. You're not going to get many bites, okay? You may get a little one here and there, but put your time in. You got to put your time into the bigger bait to get big bait, big fish. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And but other things eat this too. We had a good run of yellows eating this 7-inch weedless at Clemente, where we were hooking all our big yellows on the weedless, fishing bass, which was unfortunate because you have button down drag and you hook one, it's like, oh.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, that's what I would suggest. And again, if you get that cast out, because the key, especially on a sport boat, is to get the bait away. Unlike live bait, where you can basically drop it in, it's going to go back in the current. These things, you got to really zing it. I would fish midship, or like up in the middle of the boat, like right before right where the the house starts, and that way you can get a good cast in, and then make a long cast and let it go back to about quarter stern, and then wind your bait back so you're not interfering with the guys fishing live bait. Try to keep it in front of you. Always keep that bait in front of you and making a long cast. That's key, is getting a long cast out so that bait swims in the water. Summertime, don't be afraid to wind it fast. Don't be afraid.
Okay, and then my last question is, I have my own boat, and I've been finding trouble, like, trying to find fish in Catalina, local. How do you, like, find yellowtail and calico bass, like, around the islands?
A lot of those, if you go online, you could type in different spots, like Eagle Reef. Okay, I'll say Eagle Reef because it's a community hole. Mm-hmm. And at one time, at some times when that yellow is all in that Eagle Reef, from Lion's Head all the way up, there's all these spots. You could actually go, I think there's a book out that gives you all the spots at Catalina.
Yeah.
In fact, if you Google it, it'll come up. And I would take those. You have a fish finder on the boat?
Yeah.
I would start plugging in those numbers in there, and then I would just look at these spots in the summer. And how big's the boat?
22 feet.
Okay. And is it a cuddy cabin or a center console?
Pilot house.
Pilot house. Okay. I'll tell you one thing. I have a 72-inch Minn Kota with spot lock. Best thing in the world, because I don't have to drop anchor.
Oh my God.
Flip that thing over, hit spot lock, boom, I'm on the spot.
That's so nice.
Current changes, guess what? I'm changing. It's the best.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to deal with anchor.
No,
right?
there's a lot of the local 4-pack guys that have like Parkers and all that. They goes, hey, do you think one of those will work on mine? I go, absolutely. Absolutely. It's the best thing.
Yeah.
You just have the anchor for emergencies. But I would look at those spots. Again, common. Certain times of the year, they bite really good up in the front, as I was talking about earlier. The front meaning, from the east end all the way up to Long Point. Yeah. So look at those. Yeah, it's easy to look when you get there and see all the boats fishing. That's the easy part. But again, the best part is when you find your own fish. Yeah, as you get better and know the spots, yeah, you can get better.
Alex,
Better.
you are a fine young man. You've brought some grace to our show today, and I thank you very, very much. Philip's going to come back in now. We'll get that photograph. All you have to do is give Philip $100, and we'll take care of that photograph for you. Okay,
Alex,
good job,
thank you.
Alex.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great because you're not only reaching guys my age, old men are about ready to check out, but you're reaching a kid like that. And he's a great kid. I can tell.
I can
this
tell.
kid's going to be a success in life. I like to kid with him already, and I've only known him for 30 seconds. But he's a great kid.
He asked really good questions.
Yeah.
So you don't hear too many kids.
$100. Don't forget. Okay, just kidding. Any last question for Benny?
No, I think that covers it.
I wanted to ask, of course, how can we go fishing with you? And I'm talking about the general public. I'm hoping Philip and I and Steve, and we might even bring our intern along. We'll go fishing with you one of these days.
That would
But
be great.
If people want to go, what can they do?
They can reach me a number of ways. My phone number is 310-779-0397. They can go to Instagram at coastal_charters and DM me. And then they can go to my website at fishcoastalcharters.com. And then email, I guess there's more, ben@fishcoastalcharters.com. Phone call's great. Just leave a message. Tell me, ask me a question. And if you have any questions about tackle, where they're biting, I don't have a problem letting you know. I mean, I really don't. I'm not a spot hogger unless I'm on something different, like some sea bass that are biting right now. I don't mind catching those accidentally. I don't fish them, but I don't mind.
Benny, this has been everything I would have ever imagined and wanted it to be. There are so many pearls of wisdom out there for the anglers who are listening. I got to know you more as a person and learn your history.
Well, thanks.
And hear about your son. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I can't wait to get out and wet a line with you. And it's really good to see you, my friend.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me. Philip, thanks again. It was great. And continued success, like I said, I really enjoyed Jeff's and, Ed Leland. And, it's a lot of history. A lot of people don't know who these guys and and Tom Doerr coming up. I mean,
yeah, that's going to be great.
Nobody knows that he won the Calico classic on it used to be called the Jad a number of years ago.
Really?
Yeah, including me.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Tom Dura, that's great.
Sure, yeah. Great bass guy. He knows the horseshoe
Yeah.
more than anybody. He can catch big bass out there.
He's a great guy. All right, this concludes another edition of Friedman Adventures. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube. We'll see you back here again for another show really, really soon. Thanks again, Benny.
Oh, my pleasure.